Hi there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me again today. Today we have a project featuring these feather stamps and a stamp and die combo. I'm going to use 4 of these feathers, and I'm kind of picking out a couple of the smaller-ish ones and then sort of one larger one. And I am stamping onto some Tim Holtz watercolor paper because I'm going to be adding some colors to these, and the paper is going to be getting a little bit wet, so I wasn't 100% sure what direction I was going, but I knew I was going to have to color them somehow. So I have picked out the 4 that I'm going to use and put them onto acrylic blocks, and this is going to say thankful for you. So out of that happy set, I'm just going to use the for you, the 2 little words, and I've got that stamp set there that says thankful. I'm just lining these up because I'm going to stamp them first so that I can put them exactly where I want them to go and stamp the feathers around them. And just using some VersaFine Onyx black ink, and just use my T-ruler to line things up as well. Now I have my, this is the EK Success Anti-Static powder tool, and just putting that on because I'm going to be doing some heat embossing, and so I don't want any little strays to stick where they shouldn't. So I've just used the largest stamp first, and then I'm kind of going around those 2 little words for you. So just stamping out plenty of the feathers, no rhyme or reason, just fairly random. And this is just a sticky embossing ink. I've used a few different ones in the past, and they're all much for muchness in my opinion, so just whatever you have is good. So I'm just filling up all the wee spots, and I'm making sure that the feathers come off the side of the card too. And then I'm using some Wow Bright White Fine embossing powder. Also, a little something that happened is because the VersaFine is a pigment ink, it was still wet. I hadn't heat set it or given it time to dry, so you'll notice that the embossing powder sticks to the for you as well. I'm just brushing that off with a little dry paintbrush. Any strays that are on the card, I brush off with a dry paintbrush, and it's no different for the words, so it wasn't a problem at all. Just touching up some little pieces and getting rid of any strays that did end up sticking, usually from oils on my finger or whatever. So from here I am just going to heat set it using my heat gun, and I want all of the little embossing powder to melt, and you can kind of see it changing here. I'm sorry this is really hard to see. It is white on white, so I know it's kind of tricky to see what's going on. I have this thankful stamp here. This one came from AliExpress, as did the Happy For You and the Feathers stamp set. I will link them below if they are still available. I haven't stamped this before, and so I'm stamping it a couple of times, and also, I don't know, I truly must have not been trusting myself today, because I stamped it 3 times even though I knew that I only needed 1. So I must have thought that I was going to mess up. Anyhow, I have some distress inks, and truly I was just using any colours. I can't remember what these colours are, but there's a couple of shades of yellow, a couple of shades of orange, and a couple of shades of blue. I'm just using my Waterbrush, which is from AliExpress also, and I'll link that below. And I'm just picking up the ink off. I actually put it onto some acrylic blocks just because they were sitting there beside me from stamping the feathers. And I am just colouring in those feathers kind of roughly. I'm not, this isn't a perfectionist card, and I know I'm going to go around the outside with another colour, so yeah. So the blue stands out really well, and the card is kind of hard for you guys to see the detail in some places, but I did really like the how it ended up. So I'm just adding them wherever I want to, and there's no rhyme or reason again to the colours, and they're kind of, the yellows and oranges are getting mixed a wee bit, so as I said, it's just, yeah, had fun doing a little bit of loose colouring. And then I'm going to heat set it a little bit with my heat gun just to speed up the process. And then I have put some black soot, which is a distress ink, down on my acrylic block, and I am using my Waterbrush to pick it up. I want it to be really diluted. I want it to be a kind of grayish color just to really help those feathers stand out off the page, because they do have white embossing powder on a white background. So I really need them to just stand out a little bit more. So I don't want it to be black and I don't want it to be dark, but I do want it to be just to help them stand out. So I'm adding lots and lots of water to the black soot. I didn't have any of the greys or in the distress line, or I don't think I really have too many grey inks that I could watercolor with. So yeah, I just ended up using the black soot and watering it down plenty. I'm just going to speed through this for you, and as I said, I'm not being super careful. I'm just putting out plenty of water through my water brush, squeezing it lots, and spreading it around and around all the feathers. Once I think I've got everything covered and all the little white spots are gone, I am going to heat set that with my heat gun. And as I said, I'm really glad I used the watercolor paper for this, because it did end up getting quite wet. I have the Thankful stamp here, and it came as a stamp and die set. And as I said, this is from Ali, which I will try and link below. So I'm just taking one of those words and using a little bit of low-tack tape. This one is post-it note tape, and I ran it through my Cuttlebug, and it did a really nice job of cutting around the outline. So that's cool. I added a little bit of, here I was just putting it on my background, and I decided that the white of the paper that I'd stamped on, which was actually Nina Solar White 80 pound, was too white for the grey background, and it just looked really out of place. So I used some of that same black soot ink and went over the, I watered it down a lot so it was kind of the same grey. I was aiming for the same grey as the background with the feathers. And then I just went over the Thankful quickly. You have to be a little bit quick and not add too much water when you're doing this, because this is not watercolor paper. This is just normal paper, so it doesn't have the ability to cope with much water at all. Then I'm heat setting that just to get it over, to get it dried nice and fast. And then here I'm just showing you, it was kind of hard to see like the effect of the feathers, but so I turned on my lamp for you to see. And then here's my little trick with the double-sided tape on the back. I just pull up a little corner of each of the four ends. I saw somebody else do this on YouTube, and it works really, really well. And that gives you the ability to kind of wiggle it around without committing all of that double-sided adhesive in one go. So once you think you've got it in place, you kind of just hold it there and gently pull the sides out. And that always helps me get it lined up perfectly without making mistakes. So from there, I just put it on a black panel around the back, and then I'm just doing the same thing, putting some more double-sided tape on, and then bending up the little corners so that I can put it onto my 110 pound Nina Solar White card base. So doing exactly the same trick, and then I have cut up some little foam squares which I got from Ali, and have put them on the back of the Thankful. And then I'm just going to place that right above the Thankful for You, and a couple of Nuvo drops and the Morning Dew, which is the clear colour, and I'm all done. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, bye.